Hello everyone, this is part 18 of What If Naruto Had Some Help, and I hope you guys enjoy this video and to like, to subscribe, to share, and check out the playlist, to see more comment down below. Now let's start the intro.
They call me a god. They call me a god. They call me a god.
Join my membership, the perks are great. It's in the description. Be sure to like and subscribe, it gives me more motivation. Enjoy. It had been 2 days when Naruto opened his eyes and looked around and saw himself in a room and thought, this could be heaven or this could be hell, the wallpaper sucks either way. He sat up and winced as he looked at the bandages across his body and saw his cloths on a chair and thought, I know that Ino isn't here, so who the hell healed me? As he began to unwrap himself and then got dressed. A few minutes later he walked out of the bedroom and went down the hall and saw a pair of stairs and went down them, and he entered a room and saw 2 women, a black-haired woman in her 30s and another one around his age sitting talking, and they both looked at him and Naruto said, hi. The shorter one, who was around his age, said, hello again Naruto-sama. Zabuza-sama is out right now with Kakashi-san and his team. Guy-san and his team are with Tazuna at the bridge. This is Tsunami, Tazuna daughter, and I am Haku. We met earlier but I was wearing a mask. Naruto looked at her a few minutes and said, I see, why am I not S? Haku said, Zabuza-sama said you impressed him and he does not care who he is impressed with. They said if you woke up and felt like it to come meet them in the woods behind the house. Naruto moved his arm and winced and said, my arm healed wrong. I will have to reset it. Haku nods and said, yes, I helped you with what little medical knowledge I know, but I was afraid to try to reset it until you recovered. Naruto waved his hand and said, it's fine. I assume there has been a truce agreed since Tazuna is still alive. Tsunami looked down and Haku said, yes, but you would have to talk with Zabuza-sama about it. Naruto nods, walks out the door and heads toward the back of the house where he could detect several chakra signatures, and he soon found Zabuza and Team 7 tree climbing, and Naruto said, yo. Everyone looked at him and he walked toward and walked up it to the top with chakra, and he jumped off backwards and fell toward the ground making Sakura scream, and he stuck out his arm that had set wrong, and everyone winced as they heard it take the brunt of the fall and break again. Naruto winced and stood up slowly and he said, hey team, come here a minute. Sasuke walked over and Naruto held up his now broke arm with his good arm and said, do me a favor and pull on my arm until I tell you to let go, but hold on tight. I need to reset the bones quickly. Sasuke grunted and pulled Naruto's arm at the wrist, and everyone saw as Naruto was pushing off a tree with one foot, and they heard snapping a few times, and Naruto's face was wincing in pain, and he finally said, okay, let go, and Sasuke did, and Naruto swung his arm a few times and said, at least it set right the first time, this time, as he looked at everyone. Sakura asked in a stuttery voice, this time, you mean you broke your arm before? Naruto sighed and said, I've broken my arm over 200 times in my life, Sakura. I've been to the hospital 29 times for it. The rest of the time I had to set it myself. Amy asked, but how come you broke it so many times? Naruto said, usually wasn't me. So Haku gave me a brief rundown that I earned your respect and where everyone was, but the rest I would have to SP, as a fist him in the side of the mouth, and he looked at who held the fist and saw Sasuke, who looked pissed. Sasuke said, listen here you barker. I am not losing the only damn family I have left in this world. You ever pull a stunt like that again and ask me to KU, I will kick your ass. Now who the hell put all those scars on your body? Naruto said, my scars. Sakura said, yeah, we all saw your wounds when Haku was helping you, what happened? Naruto thought a moment and said, oh, those are mostly from one of my sensei. She kind of sadistic. Kakashi asked, how come you have scars, Naruto? I know for a fact you usually never scar from your childhood. Naruto sighed and said, of course you would know that Inu. I recognized your scent the very first day, Kakashi, so I know you were one of my Anbu guards. As for the wounds, took a giant leap off a high cliff, nearly SD, met my curse and told him to his face F you and to kiss my blonde ass. Bastard said he was going to make it where I could see what my precious village did to me trying to break me, and since my boss adapted to his chakra to make it heal faster, H has figured some way to make it where I scar now. Oh well, personally I feel it makes me more human and proves I am not a demon, as he looked bored and everyone else looked stunned. Sakura stuttered, "You met the QB." Naruto said, "You know, a woman who stutters gives a damn good blowjob," making everyone wide-eyed. Sakura screamed, "Pervert," as SHT turned red and Sasuke said, "How do you know that, Dobe?" Naruto crossed his arms and smirked and said, "Hey Kakashi, are you planning to put your team in the Chunin exams this year?" Kakashi said, "I thought about it, why?" Naruto said, "Have you chosen a fire kami yet?" Everyone was looking at him and Kakashi's eye went wide as he dropped his book and asked, "How do you know about that, Naruto?" Naruto said, "Before I left Konoha I became one." Kakashi asked, "Who certified you?" Naruto said, "Kurenai-sensei." Kakashi fell out of the tree limb he was in and landed on the ground on his back and said, "You lucky ass. You got fed by the Ice Queen of Konoha." Everyone's eyes got wide and Zabuza looked at Naruto and said, "No way, Genjutsu Goddess Kurenai Yuhi. Shush is hot. I seen her before." Sasuke said, "That's the sensei of Team 8. How the hell did you get her and what is this fire kami?" Kakashi sat up and said, It's a Hokage certification training course. The Shodaime Hokage was not originally called a Hokage. He was just called Captain. He gave the name Hokage to his brother as a joke the day he announced him as his successor. Naruto saw everyone looking at him and Sakura asked, "I don't understand Kakashi-sensei, what does having S with Kurenai-sensei have to do with being Hokage?" Kakashi said, "Okay Sakura, since Naruto asked me if I had planned to put you in the Chunin exams and I said yes, he can't get into trouble for speaking about it. During the reign of the Shodaime, everyone was a ninja with the village just being founded, but because of the chance of someone killing all the women and making it where there could never be another generation of shinobi, the Shodaime made a law saying that each woman has to get a Satian certification before they were allowed higher ranked missions. He created a test where women would have to understand the dangers they would be putting themselves in by gaining rank. Because of the chance of or having to use seduction to accomplish those missions, he did not want to send young girls out into the world and never return." Naruto said, "According to what I was told, he made the test where only those who truly wanted to be a ninja would progress. Kakashi-sensei told us how out of everyone who graduates from the academy only 9 become genin usually. Out of that 9 there are always at least 3 girls. Out of those 3 girls only 1 usually makes the rank of Chunin before they turn 17. The rest either stay as a genin or retire, realizing that being a ninja is not all the glory they thought it was when faced with the choice of taking the test." Kakashi said, "In fact there are only 2 ways for a konoichi to become a Chunin. One is to be a prodigy who excel in combat so great they receive a field promotion like Tsunade of the Sannin, or to actually take the test. 99% of the konoichi who are of Chunin status or higher in the village has taken this test." Sasuke asked, "Exactly what is this test?" Naruto looked at Kakashi who said, "As I said earlier, because of the chance of being rode or having to use seduction on higher ranked missions, konoichi have to demonstrate their knowledge of seduction and suality in a controlled environment on a live host in a brothel under watch from a Junin konoichi. The live host has to be approved by the head of the brothel as well as a prominent Junin konoichi of the village. There is only one brothel in the village of Konoha and they are allowed to operate to allow konoichi to test their seduction skills in the brothel, and by performing these tests and there is only one live host at a time so no one can fake a test to advance." Naruto said, like Kakashi said, the name Hokage was a joke made by the Shodaime because the original live host was his brother Tobirama. After Tobirama Senju became Hokage, the next host was Hizu and Saratobi, who later became the Sandaime Hokage. After he became the Hokage, the next host was selected and it was Jiraiya of the Sanins. After Jiraiya was Minato Namikaze, the Yondaime Hokage. After he became Hokage it went to Kakashi said, "Me and I did it until 1 year ago when I chose to give up the duty and now it appears Naruto is the next one." Naruto said, "Yeah, I was at Red's visiting a friend and getting some money gambling before my date with Ino when I was asked to have a private talk. I was offered the job and at first I refused, but after getting some dating advice from Kurenai, and my friend Kurenai tested me and I passed her test and so I got the job," as he looked up and saw both Amy and Sakura pale. Amy said, "So let me see if I got this straight. If I want to advance to a Chunin then I have to have S with you." Naruto said, "Under the supervision of the brothel head and a female Junin who has to sponsor you then yes, of course there is another way to get the certification." Sakura said, "Thank God, what is it?" Naruto said, you have to get married and be married for a year, which would eliminate you from those higher ranked missions anyways. Why do you think there are so few female chunins and junins? Sakura looked down and Amy said, there's no way I am doing it. I would rather be a genin for the rest of my life, and I think you're lying because I know there are chunin exams. Kakashi said, which you can take as many times as you want and do as good as you can, but the Hokage will not accept any promotions for you until you pass one of the 3 ways stated. I know it sounds hard and unfair, but it has saved the lives of a lot of women, especially during wars. Naruto looked at Zabuza, who had picked up the book, and said, so, what's up? Zabuza said, we leave in an hour to meet Mirai. Haku will stay here until I return, as I have agreed with Kakashi. I will also give you an update on Madara on the way. Get your things, we will be back in 6 weeks, Kakashi. Kakashi said, good, it will take us right at 2 months to finish the bridge as long as Gato does not become a problem. Zabuza nods and Naruto turned and walked away thinking, well, at least now that I told Sakura and Amy that after we all return to Konoha things will work out, thanks Nichan. As Naruto stood in front of Tazuna House, Zabuza walked out and said, well, I plan to travel hard and fast. If you can't keep up, then find your own way, as he took of running and Naruto followed as well. As they left, Team 7 who had returned saw them leave and Sasuke shook his head and said, I swear, the Dobe is crazy. Sakura looked at him and then looked at Kakashi and asked, Sensei, is what he said true? About the promotions? Kakashi said, yes Sakura. It has been tried to cancel the test and promote women normally. 47 women were promoted without taking the test over 5 years. Of that 47, all of them were sent on higher missions. 20 were captured by villages they were to spy on because they lacked the appropriate skills needed that the test gave them, and only 2 were returned alive but were never able to be ninja again. Sakura asked, what about the others that passed? Kakashi sighed and said, 11 disappeared on missions and were never seen again. 5 were married for political alliances, and we lost the alliances because the men they married felt cheated because they wanted refined women, not fangirls. Of the other 11, only 3 made it to Junin. 5 married and retired, and the other 3 all went into other fields such as clerical or hospital nursing. Sakura bit her lip and asked, is it really that dangerous for a woman, Kakashi-sensei? Kakashi said, the danger between women and men on the same mission is 20 to 1 against women. Men are generally stronger, faster, and can take more damage, where most women are smarter, have better chakra control, agility, but when outnumbered they usually wind up being taken hostage to be sold as slaves, used for their captors' enjoyment or ked. Amy asked, why is it we don't hear about this? Kakashi said, simple Amy, in Konoha for every 100 children born, 76 will sign up for the academy. By the time you graduate from the academy, only around 40 is all that is left. Now of that 40, 25 usually become a genin, 15 chunin and 7 junin. Now what happens to the 15 who don't become genin? Amy said, they wait to be reassigned to a new team like I was, or they quit. Kakashi said, partially correct. Usually of those 15, 4 will be placed on a team later. Now of the other 11, 6 usually quit and the other 5 get tired of waiting and are offered a position in other fields. Some go into medical and become aides who take care of patients who can't take care of themselves by giving baths or cooking meals or things like that. They free up the doctors and nurses who could be used elsewhere to save our fighting ninja. During war, there are never enough doctors and nurses, and civilians don't have the physical conditioning or stamina to deal with these low-risk tasks, but academy students do. Sakura said, so, they become support staff. Kakashi said, correct, and that is just those who graduate but don't become genin. The ones who become genin and don't advance help keep the village running with D-rank missions, in case of an attack on the village, evacuation and protection of the civilian and injured, while the chunin and higher-ranked ninja try and defend the village or are used for missions outside of the village. Sasuke said, and so to keep the support staff of the village going, the general knowledge about the dangers to women and how hard the life of a ninja can be is kept secret, so the next class of academy students will be full at the beginning and keeping the line going. Kakashi smiled and said, very good, all of you. That is exactly why it is illegal to talk about these things. Anyone who does without approval will be put in jail to silence them. Sakura asked, if Naruto hadn't have brought this up, would you have told Amy and me about this test? Kakashi said, nope. You Sakura fixate on Sasuke too much and don't pay enough attention to your own training when you could become a real good ninja, and Amy is too hot-headed and not strong enough to pass the actual Chunin exams. Also, she has demonstrated that she breaks my cardinal rule. Those who follow the rules are trash, but those who abandon their comrades are worse than trash. To me, Amy is worse than trash because she would abandon a fellow comrade if she had a chance to. Naruto. I know Naruto is Naruto and Kyuubi is Kyuubi. I had actually requested Naruto on my team, even with the council demanding I train Sasuke. It hurt me to see him have to be removed, but now I am glad that he was, because he is without a doubt the strongest genin in Konoha right now, followed by Team Guy with Sasuke mixed in there. Sasuke frowned and said, Guy team is that strong. Kakashi said, Lee is the only genin right now who might be able to defeat Naruto. You and Neji are both prodigies in your own right, and I don't know which of you two are stronger. Tenten would be right after you three, because she is a true Konoichi who would have taken the Chunin exams last year had there actually been a Fire Kami to give her test. Because there wasn't, Guy held his entire team back until this year, where either she would have taken the exam and not been promoted, or they would have tried to find a Fire Kami, which they now have. Sakura crossed her arms and said, I don't like it. Naruto is a pervert. Kakashi snickered at this and said, actually, Naruto is one of the biggest pervert bashes in Konoha. In fact, nearly every woman in Anbu has an open contract out saying they castrate anyone who tries to get revenge on Naruto for getting them busted when they were peeking on women. It really is amazing if people actually knew how much of the ninja population likes Naruto. I mean, every clan but the Uchiha, with the exception of Itachi, have helped protect him over the years when they could. Sasuke asked, if Naruto is so liked by the ninja population, then why is it he was attacked so much and treated so wrongly? Kakashi sighed and said, the council was a major problem. The Hokage has control over the ninja forces, however the civilian population fall under the council control. The clans were outnumbered by the civilians, so they were blocked from doing too much. The ninja of the village are for the most part neutral to Naruto. They are either too busy to get to know him or are too afraid of the backlash they would suffer to support him. Lee asked, what kind of backlash? Making everyone but Kakashi to look at Team 9, who were all sitting on a tree limb. Sasuke frowned and asked, how long have you all been here? Tenten said, since before Naruto and Zabuza left. They have to let the cement supports harden for the day, so Tazuna cancelled work for the rest of the day. Sakura asked, did you know about the Tenten said, Fire Kami, yes. I went to the brothel already to sign up to take it with a female Junin who sponsored me, but learned there wasn't one at the moment. Amy frowned and said, well, guess what, they have one now, Naruto, as she crossed her arms. Tenten shrugged and asked, and, what's wrong with that? H is not ugly, so taking the test with him as the host won't be that hard, and H is doing a mission for the village just like any of us could be called to do someday. Remember when we took our oath to the village, we promised to protect the village with our minds, boss, spirit, and lives. Sakura said, and you're okay losing your virginity to him? Tenten said, answer me this, Sakura, would you rather lose your virginity to someone you at least know under your terms, or to some stranger on a mission you may never see again? Sakura said, for love of course. Tenten said, then quit. Do you know how many women are actually virgins when they marry their husbands? I would say less than 10% if I were to guess. For Konoichi it is even less. We live short, lives Sakura. The average life of a Konoki is 25 years. Sure, a few live to be older, but when you figure in all those who never even make it that far, then it balances out. We usually don't have to worry about wrinkles and things like that because we're already S, which is why civilians have to wait until they are 18 to marry. We can marry the day we graduate from the academy. Lee asked, what's a Fire Kami? Tenten said, a youthful trainer for Konoiki only in physical exercise. Lee's eyes became covered with flames and he screamed, Yosh, I shall become a Fire Kami. Tenten, Sakura, and Amy all paled, and Tenten said, it could be worse than Naruto, as she looked at Lee, who was hugging Guy as the sunset appeared. Sakura said, I have a lot to think about, as she went inside. Amy said, I won't do it. If this is what it takes to be a Konoichi, then I am going to resign when I get back to Konoha. As she stormed into the house, slamming the door. Kakashi sighed and said, to answer your earlier question, Lee, all stores have a universal rule, they have the right to refuse service to anyone. Those who have actually gotten to know Naruto and accept him as him often are banned from businesses in Konoha, and that is just one example of the backlash they would receive. The council also would look for any excuse to have them removed from duty. I have seen where a ninja broke a civilian nose when 10 of them jumped Naruto as a child, and the ninja was accused of being the aggressor and had his ninja license suspended for 6 months. Since he was a full-time ninja, he had no other source of income and he lost his home and had to retire so he could leave to start a new life. If he had defended anyone else but Naruto, then he would have been claimed a hero. Tenten said, "It's so unfair, the bull he has to deal with." Kakashi nods and Lee asked, "But why doesn't the Hokage fix this problem?" Guy said, "He would if he could, but our village requires the civilians to prosper or it will fall. He may be the village leader, but he can't just remove the council and seize power, or it could result in a civil war. He has to do what is best for the entire village, not just Naruto." Neji said, "He is fated to a life of pain and suffering just like I am, all because of a seal." Sasuke said, "For once Hyuga, I agree." In Konoha, Ino was sitting at the counter of her flower shop when Hinata walked in. Ino said, "Hello Hinata, what are you doing here today?" Hinata stuttered out, "I want you to stay away from Naruto-kun." Ino blinked and said, "No." Hinata said, "He is mine, we have already been intimate." Ino glared and said, "What the hell does that mean?" Hinata smirked and pulled out a photo of her giving Naruto a blowjob, and Ino's eyes went wide and she said, "Get out." Hinata said, "Keep it, Naruto-kun's mine," in a stutter and walked away. Ino waited until she left and burst into tears as he pulled her knees together and thought, "Why did you do this, Naruto-kun? I thought you loved me." Hinata walked down the road with a smirk and thought, "Naruto-kun is mine." Kurenai frowned as she saw Hinata smirk as she walked away from Ino's shop and thought, "Let's see what you did, Hinata," as she walked toward the store and saw Ino crying. She walked in and Ino looked up and turned around, and Kurenai walked over and saw a photo on the ground behind the counter and said, I think she missed his good side." Ino asked, "What?" in a tear-stained voice. Kurenai said, "Let me guess, Hinata showed you this to try and break you and Naruto up. Asuma-kun told me about you too." Ino said, "Well, that B can have him." Kurenai shook her head and said, "You are a fool, Ino. The only reason he is like that is because of you." Ino glared and said, "How dare you say it was my fault he slept with that tramp?" Kurenai said, "Correction, I said he did it for you, not that it was your fault. You see, Naruto took a mission." Ino said, "So you're telling me that this is a mission?" as she shoved the picture in Kurenai's face. Kurenai said, "Yes, let me explain it to you," as she explained the test. After she was done, Ino had her fist clenched and said, "I am going to K that B. How dare she trick me like that?" Kurenai sighed and said, "I was afraid something like this might happen after I told her about you and Naruto being together. I figured it would crush her, so I gave her a shot to be with Naruto to see if I could get her out of her shell as well as completing her requirement to advance. Now I know why she went back into her room before I took her for the test. If a friend of mine hadn't have developed that picture and called me about it, then I wouldn't have tracked her down to here." Ino asked, but, why Naruto?" Kurenai said, "Naruto a favorite down at Reds. H has never lost at gambling, and there are a few girls who I guess you could say took him under their wings. In fact, I heard Naruto was given the birds and the bees talk by someone there. I know there's more to it than that, but what I don't know." Ino thought, it could be part of his training to be Miko, but. Kurenai said, "Look, I know you're probably upset with Naruto, but you're not supposed to learn about it unless your instructor thinks you're ready to become a chunin, and then you have to have a female junin sponsor you. If you want, I can promise you that no other girl will be with him until you have a chance to take that test, and I will sponsor you for it as my way of saying sorry for what Hinata did." Ino bit her lip and said, "But I don't really know what to do." Kurenai smiled and said, "You got a pen and paper?" Ino quickly got one and handed it to Kurenai, who wrote on it and folded the paper and said, "You can't tell anyone I am doing this or I could get in serious trouble. You also can't tell anyone about the test. Inside this is a note to the head of the brothel. Her name's Rose. Shush is one of the ones who took Naruto under her wings, and she can teach you what you need to know. Just ask for Rose and give her this note. If they say Shush is not there or busy, go back later." Ino looked at the note and slowly took it and asked, "What about Hinata?" Kurenai said, I am going to punish her. Ino bit her lip and said, no don't. I want to do it myself for making me doubt Naruto. Kurenai said, no offense Ino, but you can't beat her as you are now. Asuma's told me about his team and I told him about mine, so I know what you can and can't do, and Hinata is currently better. If you want to beat her, then you are going to have to train hard. Ino frowned and said, I will. I know someone who can help me. I will have to ask Dad to let me off for a while though. Kurenai said, well, how about getting stronger between now and the Chunin exams and then beat her then? Ino thought about it a moment and said, sure, that sounds good. Kurenai said, you're going to be one lucky girl though. I was the one who certified Naruto for this job. As she left in a swirl of leaves. Ino screamed, B. Kurenai appeared in front of Hinata and said, good job Hinata, she took it hook, line and sinker. Hinata stuttered, but it was wrong sensei and Naruto-kun's going to be mad at me. Kurenai said, no he won't, trust me, now you have to increase your training for when you fight Ino. Hinata said, hi sensei, as they went to train. Naruto and Zabuza were both running along the water and Naruto thought, damn, where the hell are we going? Zabuza chuckled and said, you still haven't figured it out, have you kid? We're in a genjutsu right now. Naruto asked, what? As he started to dispel it, but Zabuza chuckled and said, don't try and dispel it kid. Remember when I knocked you out for security reason? The truth is after I knocked you out I used a summoning scroll to take us both to an island and we are running laps around the island as we speak to try and impress Mirai to actually see us. H is the only one who can dispel the genjutsu. Naruto frowned as he kept running as Zabuza chuckled even more as Naruto grumbled under his breath. X. That will be all for this video. Be sure to like, subscribe, share, and comment down below for more videos. Goodbye.